did that Blab from my computer. It worked great. No problem. All the permissions are there. And then today my phone works. And the other day when I tried to use my phone, it didn't work. So it's always a mystery. So let me get
challenge of new technology.
Yes, exactly. So we'll get my tripod set up here.
Okay, awesome.
And now we're good to go.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining. So this is Christine Pereira with Soulful Selling Bootcamp, and I'm here with Allison Crow, an amazing coach and artist. So thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, very exciting. So Allison is one of the most soulful sellers that I know. So I wanted to talk a little bit about her kind of sales style and her history and how she became such a soulful seller, or maybe you were always a soulful seller, I'm not sure. But I'd love for you to tell the story, because you started out with real estate, your first sales job?
It was my first, well, I'm trying to think. It was my first like official sales job, right? Mm-hmm. I realize now that like I was always in sales, right? Like I was a camp counselor, and mm-hmm. I, as a babysitter or a nanny trying to convince a kid to follow my rules instead that, and pay attention to me, I was still having to sell. And as a kindergarten teacher, right. Like, so it's a different kind of selling, but yeah. So real estate was the first time, like my income depended on what I sold.
Okay. And then did you get formal sales training when you were in real estate?
Yeah, I did actually. I worked with a company that was very good about teaching us language and scripts and processes, and about gathering a database and knowing our numbers. And the further I got into real estate, and then I got into real estate coaching, and we did lots and lots of training on neuro-linguistic programming, on tons of scripts and language. So a lot of the communication, and it's so fascinating now when I sit across from, I bought a Ford pickup truck last year, and I rolled down on a Thursday to the Ford dealership a couple miles down the road. And, I started the process of buying a car and then also selling mine. And it was such a funny interaction, because finally at one point I said, sweetheart, I've taught this stuff for 6 years, and this is how it's going to go down. Like, I was recognizing all his, his patterns and all his language, and I was recognizing all his tactics. And, we ended up with a win-win situation, but it was so funny. He just looked at me and was like, oh, okay. Like,
I know. It's so funny. Once you've gotten sales training, you really recognize it. I look at people all the time and who are selling me, and I kind of observe what they're doing. Like, oh, that was really good. Maybe that wasn't so good. So that's so funny that you do that too. I bought a car recently 2 years ago, and went through the same process. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting and not, working for me.
Well, and at that company I learned, it's a real estate company. And so one of the modules, not only that we learned, but one of the ways that we had to teach was calling expired listings. And when I had actually sold real estate, I just did business by referral. I didn't prospect in the traditional way of picking up the phone and calling. And that was always really hard for me. I very much the same way I do now. I be me, and I share my heart and I show my work, and I'm not secret about what I do, but I remember I moved into that teaching position, and all of a sudden I had to teach cold calling, right? And not only that, but cold calling people. Oh my God, I just realized in college I had a I was a telemarketer.
Oh my gosh,
I was a total cold call telemarketer, and I had this, it was a script, right? We didn't really get any training. We literally just had to read the script, and I called preachers and had to sell them something. That was fascinating. Anyways, so I had to go teach expired listings, and sometimes I would just model it, and I was just totally faking it, like in the sense that, well, this is what you do. And it was actually really easy, but I also knew it is a totally legit way of business. I know people that they thrive there, but for me, I'm just more relational and personal. And I would rather have, I don't know, I like having a smaller practice that's still successful, but I don't want the machine, and I don't want to be a machine, and I don't want to, I don't know. I don't want to take away from the people that are doing it that way. I just have my own way that's more, like you call it, soulful selling. But it was funny because all of a sudden I had to put up or shut up because I was the teacher about calling expired listings, and I was good. I was good. I like doing business a different way.
Yeah. And do you think your sales style changed from at that time to how it is now? Or, I mean, how did you feel like you fit in? You were successful doing real estate, doing soulful selling, but how do you think it's changed? Or,
I considered myself.
Did you always put your own spin on it?
I considered myself successful, and because, there was a certain kind of success that I didn't care about having, right? So I was what they would call a B agent. I was not an A agent or what they call an icon agent. And these are agents that, sell hundreds of houses a year, right? So I was in between 20 and 30 houses a year, which is still way more than 80% of the agents out there. But I didn't want to have a big team. I didn't, I worked with a couple of people at a time kind of thing. And so I've seen some people build really successful businesses that they leverage out that way, because for them, it really is about the numbers. And for me, it's not about the numbers. It's not all about the numbers. And it was interesting in that business because whether it was agents helping buyers or sellers or office managers and owners, they were always trying to recruit agents, right? So that's the other thing. They were always selling to get other agents to come. And it was interesting because the language at one point, I remember coaching a woman that left and started her own real estate company. And I said, the first thing we're going to do is never call somebody a recruit. And we're never going to call somebody a prospect. I said, because do you want to be called a recruit or a prospect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And see, that's what I liked about you. That's why I think you have such a great sales style, because you take the rules that somebody else made and apply them to you. Right. And I've seen you do that, and you talk about doing that. And I think that's why you're so effective, because I don't think anything in this world is one size fits all, right? You can get advice, you can get sales training, but you still have to apply it and see how it works for you. And you're so good at doing that. So yeah, I mean, that's just another example. That's why I was always curious, like, were you always like that? Or did you just come to a point?
I think that there was always a part of me that wanted to, for my own integrity and for my own comfort in a way of being, that was always there. And I always, my mom and dad taught me from very on that people matter, that they're important, and that human beings are important. And I remember as a little kid in religious school having to say that, getting to say the prayer. And I remember praying to God that he would take care of our relationships, past, future, and present. And I was, was like a first grader, right? Like, but even in first grade, relationships were important to me. Yeah. And, that mattered to me. And then I'm not, I'm a little jaded. I'm not saying it can't happen, but a lot of times I would see these big machines and I would, wow, they're amazing on stage and their sales skill is so great, but then they were assholes behind the scenes. And so that was, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But part of that gave me just permission. I want to build it. And the other thing is I want my people. So I mean, you're the perfect example, right? You've hired me twice. And
yeah, Allison is my coach, by the way.
I don't mean to out you or anything, but the whole idea is that I want my clients to never regret. I want my clients to feel comfortable. I don't want my clients to feel like they were sold. I want to feel like they got something and they're getting something and investing in something that really does work for them, instead of going, oh, wow, I've got buyer's remorse.
Yeah. And that's such a soulful selling philosophy, right? A lot of people can make that quick and easy sale and close it and do things that are not so soulful, but long term, they don't have great relationships. And I think, you're doing the opposite of that, which is, the soulful selling way. So how would you describe your sales style? Because I talk about a lot about sales style and how, it's like when people try to fake it and be someone that they're not, that's when it doesn't really work and it comes across as inauthentic. And you definitely have your own sales style. How would you describe that?
It's interesting at this point to dissect it, because I've got to give some credit for the training that I have had. I think, I mean, I can be a nice person, but I still know certain skills And I don't know. I guess I would call it intuitive sales, or
I mean, I would say that. I mean,
or soulful selling, but intuitive, right?
Yeah, and you're also super transparent, which I love. And not everyone's comfortable with that, but you are just like share everything, and that's really worked for you. And I think a lot of people see that and are kind of nervous to do that. Like, do you want to talk a little bit about? Bless you.
Sorry.
Because I think that seems to me to be a big key to your success, is being so transparent, which I think builds a lot of trust with people. Or that's how I see it.
I learned a lot in real estate, and it wasn't, I learned from making mistakes about educating people through the process. Mm-hmm. Let me share with you how this is most likely going to go. Even if it didn't, I put all options on the table, because when I didn't, then I ended up with disappointed clients or shocked clients or that kind of thing. So I learned, let me explain what this process looks like. Let me explain what I do know. I learned to tell people, even way back in real estate. I remember the second people that ever got in my car. The first gal was a girl named Marisa Limon, and she was a teacher with me. And she said, "You've never sold a house and I've never bought one. Let's go together." And then the second couple that got in was a referral from a neighbor, and they got in the car and they said, "How many houses have you sold?" And I said, "Y'all are number 2." Because I figured it was either shaking my boots, and I just wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't have a good poker face, or just be really enthusiastic and let my passion and my willingness to learn, which are really authentic, lead, even though I didn't have the expertise. And then as I got better at various things, right, I realized how much the expertise actually could, I don't want to say just save a deal, but how much it could help the situation, how even more education and even more knowing. So I've learned to best put everything on the table. There doesn't need to be any manipulation. There doesn't need to be any doubt. It needs to be clear on both sides. Otherwise it feels slimy as somebody who's selling a service or a product. I just want it to feel good on both sides.
Right, of course, because you're in it for the long-term relationship.
Yeah, I am in it for the long-term relationship. And there's nothing worse than having a client say, "God, I paid you a lot of money and I'm not really getting what I needed." And that's a whole nother, some people would say, "Oh, that's a great chance to re-enroll." But really, is it a chance to re-enroll, or is it a chance to go, "Wow, did we move too fast? And is it really not a fit?" Right. But I think, sometimes they're like, "Oh, save the sale." But sometimes saving the sale is not what's best for both parties involved. And
so maybe it's not a win-win. So I think that's so true. And there's so many people, I've seen so many posts recently where people are like, "Why are you," or like either there's some YouTube video I saw about closing on the first sale. And I'm like, why would you even try to do that? And people saying, "Oh, I got reminded of this." And, I mean, you probably can close people on the first sale, but do you want to do that? Because they might not be sold. I know someone told me recently, a startup that I advised for was saying, someone gave them advice, like, "You should never work with a deck." And I'm like, why would they ever say you don't want to work with a deck? Because this guy's trying to raise like a significant amount of money for a technology startup. And he was saying they said not to use a deck because that person might take it home and think about it and change their mind. And I said, well, then that's not your person anyway. Like, you need them to be fully informed. You're not going to close them on the first conversation anyway. So you definitely need a deck. You need to follow up, because everybody, takes in information differently. Some people are great listeners. Some people like to read the information. But I thought that was so interesting that people are giving startups advice, and things like, don't use a deck because you might not close the deal. It just seems very silly to me.
Well, I guess they're all results based, but that is the result. The desired result is always the close of sale. And that's not my desired result. My desired result is, I call it executing divine contracts. Right. And so the contract is either facilitated by spirit or not. And both parties have to feel that way. Right. Even if my client doesn't, well, and I've thought about that, right? Like, I don't want to work with somebody who who doesn't want to work with me. I don't want to just put the money in the bank. You know, it's funny. It was interesting. I had a person one time, a coach that it did not last long with. I said something about my client, Charity Gent, and Charity has given me permission to talk about her freely, tag her, anything. And Charity actually, we say that we were born in the same coaching school because she also came out of that real estate company. And so we've been coaches exactly the same period of time, but she's been my client 4 or 5 times, both in the real estate company and then as an individual client. And she's done all my art retreats, and she's done 2 of my big, huge circles like you're in right now. And Charity loves to come back. She, you know, because she likes having that container held. Mm-hmm. And I had a coach tell me, why would you just keep selling her? And I was like, I'm not selling her on anything. She, you know, it's as long as it's a win-win for us. And if she ever said, Allison, I want something different, or I've outgrown you, then perfect. And right now she's not working with me, right? She's like, I'm just taking a break from coaching altogether, but we're still very much in contact. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the big thing is I have my own wants and needs, but I know they're going to be met. And I really want to respect the other human being. And I've also learned that when I pushed for the sale, you know, when I was 100% following kind of all the rules of sales, of enrolling clients, I ended up rushing, and I ended up with people that I was in a dissatisfying relationship with, right? Like, I didn't filter them enough. I didn't really slow down and take the time to know whether I wanted to spend 9 months with them or a year with them, or I don't even know what's going on. And they say, I just get an email that says, oh, this isn't working for me. And then, you know, that's a shock, not only to your bank account, but to everything else. So
yeah. And coaching is so personal. I mean, like, it really does need to be a win-win, or there's a lot of dissatisfaction on your part. But I think that's what a lot of people have to realize. Not in every business, it's okay to walk away from a client if it's not a win-win, or, you know, even if they're like my husband has a company, and I think, you know, there's some clients who are just so much work and they need so much attention, and they're always unhappy, or and it's because maybe the solution wasn't right for them, or they wanted something that it didn't fit in for. And so you have to be willing to walk away if it's not a win-win.
And to not walk away is a tactic. Yeah. Right? Like sometimes we're taught, just walk away. That's a tactic. I remember my dad I went with my dad many times to buy cars, and he went with me my first time to buy a car when I graduated from college. I went in and I negotiated it, and he kind of told me what to do. And, you know, that was back before the internet and when you could gather this information. And I remember him saying, they just want to knock your heads off. Like they'll go back and say, I just knocked that guy's head off. And, you know, I've bought so many cars since then. It's interesting, right? Because now the information is out there. And the information, even in this last transaction of buying this truck, they kept telling me I could only get 0% if I used Ford credit. And I said, no, that's not true. I have really good credit. Call my bank. Oh, no. And I was like, listen, I don't want to do it. If I have all these accounts at my bank and I get, you know, this is the way that I want the deal, blah, blah, blah. And finally he was willing to call my bank, and he goes, oh, you're right. Right. But I was literally, it's like, I got nothing else to do. And it wasn't a tactic, but it seriously was like, this is what's going to make it a win for me. I don't need this. I want it. That's the other thing. I personally don't like to be in a service where people need it. I want both parties to be in a choiceful relationship. That's
right. Which is very soulful.
Right. Yeah.
So I just want to give a shout out to the folks who joined. Thank you guys for joining. Nick, Chris, Forex, Emma, Ellie, or Eli. Welcome. This is Christine Pereira from Soulful Selling Bootcamp. I'm here with Allison Crow, who's an amazing coach and artist. So let's talk about sales filters. And I want to first tell the story about how I found you, because I think your filters really came into play. So when I was looking for a coach, I was working in the corporate world for a really fast-paced startup. They've since been acquired by Facebook. And I was in this like environment where it was super fast-paced, very kind of like corporate, very tech. And I wanted the opposite of that. And I was looking online. I found all these like corporate culture corporate coaches who worked in Silicon Valley, and I was like, I do not want someone like that. I don't want someone who is like an accountability coach and who's going to ask me all the time what I did. Like, I wanted it to be fun. I didn't want it to be more pressure on me. Like, I'm not doing enough. Like, I did therapy and I felt like there was too much pressure. Like, I wasn't doing the work. It was like more stressful for me. Mm-hmm. And I found Allison through, it was like these weird connections that someone had recommended one of your retreats. And then I saw you mentioned from someone else, and I looked at your website and there were like rainbows and fairies on it. And I read like a tiny bit of it and I was like, boom, that is the person. She is for me. But then I had to fill out like an application form. So then I got really worried because I was like, this is my person. And it never occurred to me that I had to be the right person for you too.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Now that was kind of a wake up call. Like, oh yeah, that's probably that's like even better. So
right.
That was my experience. But do you want to talk about your filters? Because I don't know if I ever even learned. I've done tons of sales training, and I don't think I've learned. I don't think I ever learned filters, but I learned it from you. Maybe they used a different word, but.
Well, when I was in real estate, I'm gonna walk over and let my dog out. When I was in real estate, I was coaching for real estate. The way that it worked was that I was a contract employee, and anybody who was a new agent came into my program. And the company didn't really filter for new agents. Anybody that wanted to be an agent could be an agent. And that was one of the reasons they had my position, because I was responsible to train and coach them. So I ended up with a roster of 72 clients at one time.
Oh, wow.
And out of those 72, maybe 25% were producing. And at the time, I was being paid on commission only. So I wasn't being paid a monthly fee. I was being paid a percentage of the deals that they closed.
And they're working commission only too, right?
They're working commission only too, right? But those 80% or so that weren't making any money, about 70% of those weren't even trying. Like they should never really have been let in the doors. And so I was having to do a lot of work. And I remember learning one time in coaches training, like, are you doing more work than your client? And that really stuck with me. Like, and it isn't my job to do the work for the client. It isn't my job. And so when I went out on my own, I was frankly desperate. And I hadn't really learned enough about filters, but I think having clients that were misfits, and I only had a few, and we always worked it out. But it was like, oh, we rushed into this too quick. We rushed into it too quick. So it created a dissatisfying relationship. And so one of the things I learned was that my price is a filter. My price is not about my client's dreams. My price is not about what I'm worth. My price is a filter for people to spend time in a coaching relationship with me. The same goes for my art retreats. It's, someone said, how do I determine my price? They're made up. They're literally just intuitively made up at a price that feels good for me. And the people that are willing to pay that are the ones that get to come.
I love that. I mean, who would say that in any book? Like, yeah, I make my prices up. I mean, but you do what feels right.
I do what feels right. And the other thing is, it's a strong enough price that it does filter out a lot of people. So no one can afford coaching. No one has a budget and says, you know what, I think I'm going to spend $15,000 this year on coaching. No one does that unless they've been doing it for years and now they know it's a part of their P&L. And so I realized that when I set higher prices, I got a higher caliber of client. I got a client who, it's not like I got richer clients, because it wasn't about that my clients were richer. It's that my clients were willing to create the money. They were their own accountability system. And then when I have clients who got something for free, or they got a gift, or they got a discount way back when, it never quite worked. There was always some bullshit that came up. And strangely enough, with my strong fees, there's never been any bullshit that's come up when it's a minimum of $1,000 a month and over. Never. I've never had a quitter. I've never had somebody, I have a program right now that is $125 a month, because I wanted to be able to serve more people. And it's a big group program. And in that group program, there are about 6 people. There were 30 that signed up, and there were 6 that show up as if they paid $1,000 a call.
Mm-hmm.
But we're 9 months in. We have a few months, or we go until the end of the year. And it's amazing how even though they committed to a year, they're dropping off like flies. And technically I have a contract with them for the year, but I just release them. I'm not going to fight over that. It's not about the money for me. I made a commitment to show up. And if I don't know, it's interesting though, because I never, with the higher filter. So that's one filter. The other one is, so I'll even filter, let's say my roster is low, or like right now, like y'all's program is ending, right? So that leaves a little bit of space on my roster. And so what I'll do is I'll maybe make an announcement on Facebook or on my list that I have some spots available. I'd like to gift some 2-hour sessions, but to get that 2-hour session, you have to send me an email or a message on Facebook with these 3 answers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny when I do that. So here I am willing to give 2 hours of my time as if somebody's already paid me gazillions of dollars, because it's not a consultation session. I give them the experience of what it's like to already be my client.
Right.
And either they won't follow directions, that's an immediate no, or I just am not the person to work with somebody who has major, major problems in their life. I don't work with victims. I don't work with people. There's always a question in there that says something along the lines of, and how have you played a part in this obstacle? And I always want to see, so if you go back and look at my application questions that even you went through, because they haven't changed, you'll see questions that bring up ownership. You'll see questions about desires and dreams. You'll see questions about what hasn't worked. You'll see questions of, are you ready to invest now?
Mm-hmm.
Right. All these things. And so all those things, if that email does get through to me, they've jumped through a lot of hoops that tell me they're ready.
Right. Yeah. They've done a little bit of the work.
Yes.
And are willing to put in.
Yeah. I had a past client last night call me. She has a yoga studio, and there's a young gal. She just has a bunch of brand new yoga teachers that have just been certified. Most of them are college age. And there's one girl that's having a really hard time. And she called and said, oh, I think she needs to spend some time creating art with you. Could I buy like a half-day session with you to create some art? And she's really blocked. And I've had all these conversations, and I just asked her, I said, hold on, what is she doing? You're the one calling me. You're the one saying this. And she's saying she's blocked, but she hasn't even bothered to get a blank book out and some watercolors or some markers. Mm-hmm. Why in the hell would I charge you a half-day fee to paint with her? Mm-hmm. I said, so the first thing you go back and tell her, well, if you're really blocked, then get out a fucking blank piece of paper and draw something or paint mm-hmm. or journal. And I told her, I said, why don't you put her on An Artist's Way has this thing where you do 3 journal pages a day, and just write or draw or paint 3 pages a day. It's not for outcome, but just to get it done. Because I don't want to invest time in somebody that hasn't invested time in themselves. I'm not here to rescue people. And there may be other therapists or people that is their niche, but I have to put a filter up at that because I do have a very giving heart. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to tell anybody no. So I've had to set up these filters that if I notice victim, if they're not ready to invest in themselves, and if they have shown no evidence of success is not the right word, but have they taken action before, right? Have they taken action before? And I also use foul language because I use foul language every day. So I think it says fuck on my website. And I am wearing fairy wings, and I talk about my spiritual stuff. I'm very open about those things. And I remember having a very wise man in my respected communities, and is in his 80s, and he does all this personality stuff. And he did this, was looking into me, and he was like, oh, your website is so childish. It would definitely turn off corporate people.
Oh, so funny. And see, that's why I liked it.
Well, exactly. And that's what's funny, because I kind of got my feelings hurt, like, fuck you, I want to be childish, which was a childish response. But it was at the time my coach really advocated for me, because he said, no, that's a filter. That's the whole point, is that she wants somebody that needs that light and that color and that off colorness. I don't want serious clients.
Right. Yeah. I would not say childish. I would say playful, which is.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yes. In the higher vibe side of me. And so I used to hide all those things because I felt like they weren't perfect. But by not putting by not being authentic, by not being my full color, soulful self, I ended up working with a lot of clients that it wasn't pleasant. And I may have made money, but I wasn't happy, and they weren't happy. And now I work with people I like. And what's beautiful is if someone doesn't like me, it's so awesome, because there's a coach down the street, or, there's a coach next door kind of thing that has a blue jacket on and doesn't use foul language and works more on outcome than process, and charges a different rate than me. And it's a match for that person that I did push away. So that means there's enough business for us all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I think, like, I learned so much about that too. I did a Periscope for my minivan the other day, like wearing my workout clothes. And I was like, hey guys, like, this is who I am. If you want to hear selling tips from me, like from the park in my van, then awesome. If not, you're not my person. And that's great. Yep. And I felt totally, I don't think I would have done that a year ago.
Right.
So it's funny. I learned a lot about that. And I think that's so helpful for anyone in sales, right? No matter what you're selling. And it all comes down to being like really authentic in who you are, and you feel more comfortable. And then, people aren't comfortable with that, then they're not going to buy, and it's fine, because it's not going to be a win-win. So yeah, I think those are such valuable lessons, and they really epitomize soulful selling. So those are amazing.
It's interesting how just being you is the best filter in the world. And so many of us have gone through life where, I talked to a gal yesterday, and she was so cute. She changed her profile picture to one that was just more, she had her corporate picture up there, and she worked for a bank in Canada, and she changed it. She watched this video that I did where I start out in corporate clothes and I strip down to my Spanx, and then I put back on kind of who I am now, which was all a metaphor for becoming, giving myself permission to not be what everybody else thought I should be. And she said, oh, that video really impacted me. And I changed, that's the first time I put like just a regular picture of me, because she can still be an impactful coach and a businesswoman, but she doesn't feel authentic in that get up. The clothes are just, exactly.
And that, like,
they love it and they rock it. And it's part of,
I don't know if they really do. Like, I had this conversation the other day. Yeah, I don't know. Because I was talking about someone recently, and I was like, he's not really like the corporate type. I don't think he fits in there. And it was like a compliment to him. It wasn't like negative at all. And then I was talking to my husband, and he was like, who likes that environment? I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't know anybody who truly does. I mean, I think people try to like fake it, but I was like, who really like enjoys that? Like, is there someone really? I mean, they might enjoy some part of it. They might enjoy the money, but like, do they really enjoy it? And I say that because I've just seen a couple of people that I've worked with at big companies recently who've left and told me how much they hate it. And I was like, wow, really? You were like the biggest cheerleader there. I thought you loved it.
Well, people would have said the same thing about me, man. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And when I didn't have a need for autonomy and freedom, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. But at some point, my need for autonomy and freedom came out. And so my vibe shifted, and my people shifted too. And so, yeah, maybe nobody is, but that's what I love about this day and age, is that we can work for ourselves, and we can do business, and we can go for something new, or we can partner with people. I mean, there are some corporations, I haven't really been in them, but there are some corporations that have new energies and new ways of being that are breaking the old molds to try to give more autonomy and freedom and stuff to companies. So
yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the new program that you're starting, the Show Your Heart, Share Your Work, right?
Share your heart, show your work. Yeah, I know. I get it confused too. It's something I've been saying for a long time, and I realized I finally put form to it. And because so many people were asking me how I create clients and how I grow my tribe without, like, they're not noticing me selling a whole lot. And so,
yeah, and it's not like a sales thing, but it is very, like, it really, all of the copy that I wrote about it, I read, was like, I was like, this is soulful selling. This is so awesome.
Yeah, I guess it kind of, and that's the thing I've gotten out of, because I'm out of the training environment. I don't think of it in those languages. So a lot of it is
you can think of it as like a sales class, and it's not specifically, because it's about, I think, you as a person, but
I think it does help people how to position themselves. So many people they do great work, but they're in this little closet, and they don't know how to get anybody to see their work. And they don't want to be like, hey, look at my work, buy from me. They don't want to be like that, but they don't know any different. And so they're very intimidated by marketing or sales, or they think that marketing and sales means one specific thing.
Right.
And that's why I say it's about who you be. And so that class is a combination of both mindset. It's actually like a triple threat: mindset and the limiting beliefs, plus ideas and strategies. Sorry, my do not disturb didn't work. Ideas and strategies for how do you share your heart and give people the experience of what you do or what you're selling without it feeling schmarmy, and using social media to do that. And then the last aspect is really some of the tech how-to. I mean, there's only a certain level I can get in, but at least getting people putting together resources for helping them pick. I'm loving Periscope and Blab and Facebook. I love this. You love LinkedIn. Like, LinkedIn is your home base. Facebook is my home base. And so giving people different offers, because you don't have to do all of them. Just pick 1 to 2 and do them really well and have fun with them, and then let all the rest go. And so, so I have 6 sessions and then 6 coaching sessions. So a total of 12 sessions about how do I share my heart, which is being authentic and telling stories about what you do, not just saying I do coaching, because nobody knows what the fuck coaching is.
Right.
But how
it means different things to everyone, right?
Yes, exactly.
And everyone coaches differently. So.
Yes. Well, and it's not just for coaches, right? I had a designer show up, and there's a couple of artists in there. Trying to think right now. Who else is in there?
I'm in it.
Yes, you're in it. And I'm excited about it, because it's really, I just finally put a little bit of form to some of the things I've been doing. I thought about it. Oh, what is it that works? Because 100% of my clients come through online. And I think you're the only one that didn't directly come through Facebook. You actually found that blog first, but you still did come through.
No,
online.
It was on Facebook though. It was on Facebook. It was someone who had a post on Facebook about you, and then, it was 2 different things. It was that, and I forget what the other thing was. But and then it led me to your page. But it was on Facebook. It was just something else.
So even the one person I thought that didn't come through Facebook still came through Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people.
It was a referral, kind of a referral.
A lot of people are embarrassed to be themselves, and I'm just now getting into Facebook, like testing the waters with Facebook advertising to grow my tribe bigger than it already is. But right now I already have a very big following and community of not just that I get from, but that I give to. Right. Too. So that's the other part of soulful selling, is being interested in what other people do. I'm not just all about me and my services. I'm about seeing what's going on with other people, seeing what's going on in their world, helping share their stuff, those kinds of things. And it creates reciprocal relationships. And I dig reciprocal relationships.
Yeah. And then if people are interested in your class, where can I'm sure they can find stuff on Facebook and on your website?
Yes. AllisonCrow.com, AllisonCrow. I guess I could say that a little slower. So Allison with 2 L's, AllisonCrow.com. And then there is a classes button. There's a classes button, or you can just Google share your heart, show your work, and Allison Crow. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter.
Just find Allison Crow.
Yeah, just find Allison Crow. Yeah, exactly. Or
awesome.
or just direct message me and I'll send you straight to the link. But I had a gal last night that was on a Periscope and was able to find it. And I woke up this morning and she had registered and sent me a message. Yeah, it was really sweet. She sent me a message. She says, I was watching your Periscope before the Blab you did with somebody. And she said, it just made me cry because she didn't know that there was a way to create tribe and community and eventually clients by being yourself. And it's that whole
people don't even realize that. And it's like, why would you think that that's not the case?
We think that we have to do it a certain way, but it's interesting when you start to break it down, how many of us, I'm trying to think, Bill and I moved to a new city. And we don't just look in the phone book when we need something and we don't have the relationships here. We call one of the 2 or 3 people we do have a relationship and ask them who they have a relationship with. And so we're even relying on the like, know, and trust of people we like, know, and trust, right? So it goes down the chain, right? And I don't refer somebody personally that I don't like, know, or trust, right? Like it's awful when somebody that you don't really trust asks you to refer them, and it's like, I just can't do that right now. And so I don't know where I was going with that. I guess it doesn't matter.
But I think that is true. I mean, that's a great point. People buy from people that they know and trust. And a personal referral is like the most valuable things you can do.
And so how do we get that across on social media,
And that's such a, idea. That's a new thing. I mean, social media didn't exist. Even when I started working in digital advertising, and there was no Facebook in a long time ago.
Well, that's what I love about the, like these things like Blab and Periscope, because not only it gives us an actual experience of somebody. So it's still very 2-dimensional on Facebook. You're not seeing personality quirks. You're not seeing how much I say somebody who is triggered by a professional that uses foul language or says is not going to want to work with me. But other people don't care. And so it actually it gives you the experience of almost sitting in the room with them. And then you can know, do I really, I seem to know who they are and I trust, I seem to trust, but I really like them. But then all of a sudden you have this video experience that is, there's only one thing better, which is being face to face with somebody. That's the only thing better. And so this is face to face with just some barriers. I could be sitting here in my underwear. I'm not. But for the most part, and if you can deal with distractions of dogs and see what my real life was like, then people are like, okay, yeah, I really like that person. I really want to spend more time with her. And it wasn't the woman that signed up, but somebody else said last night on Periscope, it was a nice compliment, but it reflects this style of being that that can end up selling, which was, she goes, I just loved being here with you. I'm coming back for more. And that, if anything, it's not that I want her to be my client, but I want people to have that experience. I want people to go, I got something yummy from spending time with you. That's my work. How can I give yummy stuff? And then the side effect will be occasionally some of those people will end up spending money with me. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to ask you one more question, because I know you have to go. So you're a very successful coach and artist. Like, how do you fit in? Like, do you dedicate time every week to sales? I mean, just because you do have actual sales training, how do you prioritize? If you have to make money, do you prioritize it, or do you just have a schedule? I know I'm going to do this many classes. No, because I always say, hey, if you're new to it, you have to start prospecting. And I think, one mistake people who have not had sales training make is that they don't understand the sales funnel. They don't understand you have to talk to 20 people to get 2 meetings to maybe get 1 sale if you're lucky. So do you and you know that already. So do you have a process, or how do you? Well, if I work backwards from what I'm doing and then figure out what the process is. So I have things that I do regularly, right? I wake up, I have my coffee, I kind of check in with Facebook and email. I don't really respond, but I see kind of if anything's going to be there. I don't actually take any calls until 10 o'clock. I have certain times in my calendar that clients can book. and that way I just don't have to worry about it. They book it. But then I leave some empty spaces between, so that if, you know, someone on Periscope sent me this long message with all these questions, and I was like, you know what, let's just hop on Skype and discuss it, because it's too long to answer in an email.
Yeah.
And so I did a little consultation session with her. But that's the thing. I'm like, how can I help and serve? So yeah, I spend some time thinking about who can I help, who can I serve. Then I also spend some time thinking about, so right now, this is the first time I've like had something I'm launching in a long time. So I'm thinking about what's a different way that I can share this information? What language can I use so that I'm not just sharing the same damn thing? You know, what story can I tell that is relevant to this? What medium do I want to use? And so it's not like that, but I do tell coaches who are new, I do say, listen, so your job is to have 2 coaching sessions a day, give them away. I mean, you know, be coaching your ass off. I'm already coaching my ass off, but if my schedule gets light, then I make sure I have a couple of sessions with people who aren't my clients just to be coaching.
Oh, interesting.
And so I guess, you know, we call that client creation. And in the Prosperous Coach, it's you connect, you invite, you create, you propose. And so that's the other thing. I also do the whole spiritual side of, before I even connect, is just tuning into the energy of my clients and doing my spiritual energetics first. And then and that's the thing, I don't particularly go, oh, you know what, there's this Christine girl and I want her to be my client. And there's a lot of coaches that do that. It just doesn't work for me. I just like it's like going out and working in the garden, right? I do that in my backyard, and I look for weeds and I pull weeds, and I look for flowers that need watering and I water them. And occasionally I put on the fertilizer on the end of the hose, and sometimes I deadhead. And my business and way of being is very much like that too. So there's different elements of that. I try to be really good about writing thank you notes. I can be better. In real estate, I did 5 to 10 a day, and I was known for it. I was great at it. Facebook killed that part of me.
Well, it's just easier to communicate.
Yeah. So like there's all those little pieces. I don't really do any direct calling because I'm able to do so much on Facebook now. But like, I know that it's been a while since I've emailed my tribe, and I've emailed them once about this course, but I want to share some other fun things that are going on. And that's the other thing. I always want to give value. I always want to give something, you know, and one of my strategies going forward is, how much do I already have that I've already created? Can I just give to people? You know, I've got a storehouse literally and digitally full of valuable things, you know, even if it's an article, or I've got, you know, I just bought a whole bunch of my friends' books, and if I think something I have will help somebody, why wouldn't I just give it to them? And so that's me planting the seeds.
Yeah.
And knowing, not in order to, but when I plant the seeds, I just know that occasionally really big, beautiful flowers will show up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I just read a whole article about gratitude in sales, and how being more, appreciating gratitude more can lead to higher sales. And there was some study behind it. I didn't get to read the whole article, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like you kind of do that and try to share your work first. And that's kind of
sharing my heart first, and then sharing my work. And so part of sharing my heart too is, you know, I told my friend Stacy last night, it's like, I've really got to, like, I've gotten so busy, and I kind of smacked myself. I don't ever want to get so busy that I don't really love all my current clients.
Yeah.
You know, that is to really not only give them what I promised, and what I promised was time and attention. And, you know, that's why it's important, you know, you guys that are my clients, when y'all come on Facebook, sometimes, not Facebook, but Periscope, sometimes the timing doesn't work, and I'm sure I miss a couple. But as often as I can, I want to pop in and see what you're up to. I want to provide resources in between times. I devoted the relationship to support you guys. And so I can't imagine, like, okay, great, you're my client, and we just have our calls, and I'm off, you know, trying to get more clients, and I'm not even watering the ones I already have.
Yeah.
So that's another part of it too.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I know you have to jump because you have some other engagements, but thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I'm so excited about your class, and that you're I'm so excited that there's a sales professional that is out there teaching not just some of the essence, but also some of the skills, right? And that's why at the beginning I couldn't deny, I can't say I was born like this. I actually did have some sales skills training, and then I was able to combine it with my personality. And I'm so excited that somebody has the option of signing up to work with you in a way that can help teach those skills and they be human too, instead of schmarmy.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I'm Christine Pereira from Soulful Selling Bootcamp. You can go to our website. We do have a class coming up soon. It's not posted. We also have Periscope and Facebook, and then Allison Crow. You can find it at AllisonCrow.com.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and then we'll save the replay, and I'll send it out to everybody on Facebook and on the website.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys for listening. Bye.